Big decisions are looming for the Las Vegas Raiders, and they might just define the team's future. There's an intriguing article making waves right now suggesting that the owner, Mark Davis, has issued a bold mandate. Draft a quarterback, no exceptions. But is this the right move, or a gamble that could backfire? NFL insider Albert Breer is the one sharing this information, and his insights are pretty compelling. I'll walk you through what he said because while I think the Raiders should absolutely consider drafting a quarterback, the idea of being mandated to do so raises some interesting questions. We'll dive into what that means in just a bit. What's up, buddies? Welcome back. If you are new here, make sure you hit the subscribe button. We cover all AFC West news here on this channel. Albert Breer mentions that the football decision-makers in the Raiders organization could be under strict instructions to draft a quarterback this April. If that's the case, the identity of the head coach will play a critical role in shaping which quarterback is chosen and how they're developed early in their career. This naturally leads to another big question. Does Mark Davis see Antonio Pierce as the right person to steer the ship? And what is the future of Aidan O'Connell? Interestingly, Breer also points out that the current Raiders coaching staff hasn't received any assurances about their job security for the next season. This uncertainty casts doubt on whether Pierce or any of his staff will even be around. According to Breer, the coaching staff has been left in the dark, and I find that fascinating. If Pierce were confident about his future, he would have likely reassured coaches like Patrick Graham, Rob Leonard, and Edgar Bennett by now. They'd already know they're part of the plan moving forward. But since no such reassurances have been given, it leaves the staff and the fans speculating about what's next. The truth is, the Raiders will likely revamp their offensive coaching staff, bringing in new coordinators for both the passing and running game, along with possibly a new offensive line coach. While this doesn't necessarily mean Joe Philbin is out if Antonio Pierce remains head coach, it does point to significant changes ahead. On the other hand, someone like Patrick Graham on the defensive side might feel more secure in his position for next year. Then there's the other part of Breer's report, the possible mandate to draft a quarterback in April. What makes this fascinating is the uncertainty around the Raiders' draft position. If they don't land a top 2 or top 3 pick, they might miss out on the top quarterback prospects. The question then becomes, will the Raiders still be forced to draft a quarterback even if the best 2 are off the board? It's a compelling scenario to consider. Adding to this complexity is Aidan O'Connell, who recently had a standout performance against the Kansas City Chiefs at Black Friday. Now the debate centers around whether O'Connell's potential is enough to forego drafting a new quarterback. He showed flashes of promise, but the bigger question is whether he can develop into the long-term answer for the Raiders or if they need to aim for a higher ceiling with a top draft pick. With all these moving parts, the coaching uncertainty, the possible draft mandate, and O'Connell's progress, it's clear the Raiders have a lot to evaluate in the coming months. Let's unpack what this could mean for their future. When it comes to structured offensive concepts, Aidan O'Connell seems to have the edge. He's shown he can effectively execute plays within a system, which is something not all quarterback prospects from this draft class can do. However, I'm still not entirely sold on O'Connell as the long-term solution for the Raiders. There are clear limitations in his game that can't be ignored, and whether those can be overcome remains to be seen. If the Raiders end up as the #1 overall pick, it's a game changer. You don't get that kind of draft position often, and passing on a potential franchise quarterback at that spot could be a long-term mistake. On the other hand, if they're picking at number 5 and the top 2 quarterbacks are already off the board, sticking with O'Connell might make more sense. What makes the next 5 games so critical is that they will reveal a lot, not just about O'Connell, but also about whether the offensive coordinator is the right fit for this team. This stretch of games is essentially an audition for everyone involved. O'Connell should get every opportunity to show he's capable of being the guy moving forward. In a recent episode of the Las Vegas Raiders Insider podcast, Hondo Carpenter Sr. explored where O'Connell would rank among the 2024 NFL draft quarterbacks. An NFL executive mentioned that, based on O'Connell's skill set and performance, he would be worthy of a top 10 pick in this year's draft. He further mentioned that some of these draft prospects struggle to operate within a structured offensive system. O'Connell, on the other hand, excels at executing well-designed plays like Mills or dagger concepts. This raises an interesting point. While the ceiling for some of these draft prospects might be higher, O'Connell's readiness to step in and succeed immediately could give him an edge. That said, readiness alone doesn't guarantee long-term success. The Raiders need to weigh whether they're building for next season or aiming for sustained success over the next 5 years. This is why these upcoming games are pivotal. They'll not only test O'Connell's potential, but also provide clarity on whether the coaching staff can develop a quarterback capable of leading the team into the future. The decisions made in this window could shape the Raiders' trajectory for years to come. Let's explore what these choices mean in the bigger picture. The top prospects like Shedeur Sanders or Cam Ward, would it make sense to reach for the next best option? Aidan O'Connell has shown he can deliver where it matters, putting the ball in the right place within a structured system. Comparatively, Sanders tends to hold onto the ball too long, and Ward, despite his talent, took years to find consistency. It's not clear if that's down to coaching or his own development. Some argue that sticking with O'Connell might give the Raiders the best shot at immediate success next season, and that's a fair point. However, there's a distinction between being competitive next season and building a team that can contend for a Super Bowl in 5 years. The ceiling of a rookie quarterback with elite potential is often higher than that of a steady player like O'Connell. That's not to say O'Connell can't grow, but the question remains, is he the long-term answer? This is why the next 5 games are so crucial. They'll provide the team with the opportunity to evaluate O'Connell further while also exploring the larger picture of what's best for the franchise. Albert Breer's report raises another layer of intrigue. Mark Davis might mandate a quarterback acquisition, but does that mean drafting one, or could it involve exploring free agency or trade options? It's not set in stone that Davis would force the team to draft a quarterback, but if he does, how much influence will he exert on decisions made by Tom Telesco or Antonio Pierce? This uncertainty makes the upcoming offseason crucial for the Raiders. With so many factors at play, the decisions they make could shape their future for years to come. While some speculate that one quarterback from the current group of prospects could emerge as the best in a few years, it remains uncertain. Regardless of the debates, Tom Telesco made a smart move for the Chargers by picking Justin Herbert. The situation with the Raiders is a bit different, though. If they miss out on players like Cam Ward or Shedeur Sanders, and someone like Jalen Milroe becomes the third best quarterback on the board, should they still take him? What if Milroe is projected to be available in the second round? These are the kinds of decisions that could heavily influence the Raiders' future. Mark Davis's mandate to draft a quarterback adds another layer of complexity. What does that really mean? Does it imply that the team has to take a quarterback no matter what? Or is there flexibility to explore other options like free agency or trades? For example, Telesco, during his time with the Chargers, ensured they were well positioned in the draft and made the right call with Herbert, but he also had a favorable set of choices to work with. The Raiders may not have that same luxury depending on their draft position and the available talent. The bottom line is this: drafting a quarterback under pressure from ownership can either set a team up for success or lead to a decision they'll regret. It's a delicate balance between finding the best talent and not forcing a pick for the sake of fulfilling a directive. Albert Breer also highlights the importance of Antonio Pierce in this process, should he remain with the team. Pierce's involvement in the development of a young quarterback could be pivotal. Adding to that, the potential role of Scott Turner as the offensive coordinator, possibly working alongside his father, Norv Turner, brings more questions. Norv has a proven track record with quarterbacks, but Scott would be stepping into a significant developmental role for the first time if retained. Do you believe the Raiders should go all in on a quarterback this year, or is it better to wait for a stronger class? Share your opinions, give this video a thumbs up, and don't forget to subscribe. I'll catch you next time with more updates.